go and sit down. Augusta, this will be
Ah, where is he? No, it's not with me.
Okay. Yeah. Sir, give him a chance, please.
Shall we take the national anthem now, please? The national anthem. All right, we will also proceed by taking the second stanza of the national anthem as our prayer for this occasion. The second stanza of the national anthem. All right, thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you. You're welcome. Your Excellency, can we be seated, please? And can we clear the foyer, please? Thank you. Let's clear the foyer. Let's clear the sidewalks. All right, thank you very much. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, ably represented this afternoon by the Honorable Minister of Transport, Senator Seidu Ahmed Alkali, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, ably represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Architect Samuel Jatau, all royal fathers here present, the Chief of the Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, OFR, our distinguished annual lecturer, Professor Etanibi Alemika, distinguished senators here present, honorable members of the House of Representatives here present, honorable members of the Federal Executive Council here present, Your Excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners here present, honorable members of Plateau State Executive Council, service chiefs here present, Inspector General of Police ably represented, heads of other paramilitary agencies here present, the Director General of the National Institute and management staff of the Institute, chief executives of ministries, departments, and agencies here present, the President and national officers of the Alumni Association of the National Institute, the General Officer Commanding 3rd Armored Division Rukuba, the Commissioner of Police, Plateau State and other security agencies here present, my lords, spiritual and temporal, members of directing staff of the National Institute, senior fellows of the National Institute, and senior staff of the National Institute, graduating participants of Senior Executive Course 45 and their spouses, invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to this occasion, which is the graduation ceremony of Senior Executive Course 45 of the National Institute. We will proceed in this ceremony by inviting the Director General of the National Institute, Professor Ayo Omotayo, to deliver his welcome address. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together.
Let me start, ladies and gentlemen, by saying good afternoon to everyone present here this afternoon. Participants of SEC 45 2023, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Are you still willing?
Yes, sir.
And are you still able?
Yes, sir.
Well, I told us that up to the last minute, we may not eventually put the dot on the I. Your Excellency, sir, Bola Ahmed Tinubu being represented today here by the Minister for Transportation. Sir, I thank you so much for finding the time to come, because I know that we contacted you a little bit late. Thank you so much for coming. I think we need to give a round of applause to the Minister. We spoke with the governor about 24 hours to this event, and he promised that he was going to make his presence felt. Today, he has sent the secretary to the state government to represent him. I thank you so much, sir, for coming. And of course, I want to thank my very good brother and friend, the Chief of Defense Staff, General C.J. Musa, for coming here this afternoon. General, I thank you. It might interest you to note that there was a half marathon in Abuja earlier today, and he could have used that excuse not to come. But because he loves the National Institute, he chose to find the time to come. General, I thank you so very much. And I appreciate the presence of my very good friend. We already know that the lead has been blown, but I will still call him Ambassador Okafor. That is the president of ANI. Can we give him a round of applause? Members of SEC 45 2023, he may decide not to give you the yellow badge. I think you need to give him a better round of applause. All other protocols duly observed. Guests from every corner of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, I will deliver a very short welcome address. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the graduation ceremony of the participants of Senior Executive Course 45 2023 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru. I am particularly elated because this event marks the successful accomplishment of a core national assignment, beginning with the instruction by Mr. President to the National Institute last year. The assignment was for us to conduct research into a major issue that borders Nigeria. And the theme given to us is industrialization, energy security, and climate change in Nigeria. Your Excellency, sir, As Nigeria's foremost apex policy think tank, the National Institute has dedicated itself, since it was established 4 years ago, to finding credible solutions to Nigeria's developmental challenges through cutting-edge and evidence-based researches. It may interest you, Your Excellency, that the various recommendations from the National Institute have been implemented at one time or the other. One of those will be the establishment of the Federal Road Safety Commission sometimes in the early century. The flagship training program, amongst other courses of the National Institute, is the Senior Executive course. Participants of the course are drawn from the armed forces, the police, paramilitary and other security agencies, federal and state civil service, the labor, professional bodies, women's societies, and the private sector. Participants from the military must not be below the rank of a colonel or equivalent in all the services. Those from the police and paramilitary should not be below the rank of commissioners and comptrollers, respectively, while those from the federal civil service must not be below the rank of a director, and from the states not below permanent secretary. Others that constitute the course are professors and chief executives of companies that have a turnover of more than 2 billion naira and with a minimum staff strength of 50. The general objective of the senior executive course is to achieve the mandate of the Institute by providing a unique opportunity to participants for purposeful reflection, research, and dialogue among academics of excellence, policy initiators, and other citizens with practical experience in important societal issues as they relate to Nigeria. The specific objectives include to improve the overall performance of participants in their different professions, to prepare participants to appreciate the short and long-term national planning processes, together with the importance of policy implementation and problems associated with this. Also, it is to stimulate intellectual curiosity that will lead to in-depth research into social, economic, political, military, scientific, cultural, and other problems facing the country through the lens of the theme for the year. Like I said before, every year Mr. President decides what he wants us to research upon. Your Excellency, sir, Sec 45-2023, which took up precisely on the 10th of February 2023, was structured into 6 sub-themes, namely, conceptual and theoretical perspectives of industrialization, energy, security, and climate change in Nigeria, historical perspectives and trends on industrialization, energy, security, and climate change in Nigeria, frameworks for industrialization, energy, security, and climate change in Nigeria, and of course, stakeholders and actors in industrialization, energy, security, and climate change in Nigeria. We also took a comparative analysis of global best practices in industrialization, energy, security, and climate change. And of course, we looked at the prospects of industrialization, energy, security, and climate change. We have different sub-themes for the, we have different modules for the sub-theme. We had 9 modules, and I would not want to bore us with that. As Your Excellency may have observed, the structure of the curriculum for the senior executive course is broad, encompassing, rich, elastic, flexible, and well-suited to adapt to any theme in any sector that Mr. President may direct participants to focus on. Most importantly, the resource persons and course facilitators are usually drawn from among the best within and outside Nigeria in the academics, bureaucracy, military, paramilitary, and other security institutions. We also involve civil society organizations where we find their expertise necessary. During the course of the tour, the participants visited strategic institutions in the country. We also visited 7 states in the Federation of Nigeria. We visited 6 African countries and 6 countries in other places outside Africa. Your Excellency, sir, let me use this opportunity to thank the government and good people of Plateau State in general and our host, the Kuru community, for the cordial relationship that has existed between us. I can recall that last year, seated on this right corner, was the Gongre of Kuru, who is no longer with us today. I will want at this point to request that we stand up and just honor him with a minute's silence. May the gentle soul of Gongre of Kuru, that Patrick Mandong, rest in peace. May you be seated. I must not, but also appreciate the leadership of the Alumni Association of the National Institute, the very, very famous ANI, for always ensuring that the interest of the National Institute is always protected. Given your enormous support, the National Institute will continue to push for a greater Nigeria of our dreams. I also want to report, Your Excellency, that the National Assembly, in general, the Senate and House committees on intergovernmental affairs, which oversight the National Institute, have been very supportive in the activities of the National Institute. We also must appreciate the support given by sponsoring agencies and organizations. Topmost on the list will be our appreciation will go to the military forces, both the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, and the Nigerian Navy. I think for all the support that these military agencies have been giving to Nigeria, I think military men will sit down, while those of us who are civilians will please stand up and clap for them. Without the military, can we please clap for the military groups? Thank you very much. You can have your seat. This is a call on other sponsoring bodies to do something about helping NIPS. If you go around NIPS, you will discover that almost all the buildings here are donated. And the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Navy, and the Nigerian Air Force has done a whole lot. We also acknowledge the police, too, for what they have done for us concerning our school. The police single-handedly is running the NIPS staff school, and I think that also deserves a round of applause. AIG, can you please stand up and take the... Please, a round of applause to our AIG, representing the IG of police. Your Excellency, sir, let me place on record the immense support of the Office of the Vice President, whom you represent here today, to the National Institute. His Excellency the Vice President, despite his tight schedules, always avails himself on matters and activities that pertain to the National Institute. You do not take this gesture for granted, sir. While welcoming everybody to this graduation ceremony, I must also note that because of want of time, we decided to put the graduation ceremony together with our distinguished annual lecture, and very soon the distinguished annual lecturer will be introduced at the right time. But a round of applause before he is introduced. Let me welcome all of us once more to the National Institute. Thank you very much.
Can we please appreciate our esteemed Director General with another round of applause? Thank you, sir. Your Excellencies, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. It is my singular honor and privilege to invite Professor, I beg your pardon, Dr. Solomon Anjide, a senior fellow of the National Institute to read the citation of our distinguished annual lecturer and invite him to the podium. Dr. Anjide, please.
DG, sir, permit me to stand on the well-established protocol. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for lack of time, please permit me to present an abridged version of the citation of our distinguished annual lecturer, Professor Etanibi E.O. Alemika, Professor of Criminology and Sociology of Law. He was with the Department of Sociology, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Jos, Nigeria, until his retirement few months back. Professor Alemika is a Nigerian from Bunu, Kogi State. He attended the University of Ibadan, where he obtained a BSc Sociology in 1978 and MSc Sociology in 1980. Thereafter, he proceeded to the University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, United States, for graduate studies, where he obtained master's degree and PhD in criminology in 1983 and 1985, respectively. The 2023 NIPS Distinguished Annual Lecturer has over 150 publications to his credit. He has taught in several I beg your pardon, may I please invite the distinguished annual lecturer to be on his feet, please. Thank you, sir. The 2023 NIPS Distinguished Annual Lecturer has over 150 publications to his credit. He has taught several undergraduate and postgraduate courses at the University of Jos and several universities in Nigeria, the United States, South Africa, Ghana, and other countries. Professor Alemika is a member of 17 academic and professional associations and boards within and outside Nigeria. Some include trustee and member of the Nigerian Society for Criminology, fellow Nigerian Anthropological and Sociological Association, member Academy of Criminal Justice Science, United States, chairman of board Clean Foundation 2012 to 2022, fellow Social Science Academy of Nigeria. He has also received numerous academic honors, scholarships, grants, fellowships from reputable organizations nationally and internationally. Professor Alemika is not only a renowned scholar of criminology, but he is also widely consulted all over the world. He has served as consultant to African Union, World Bank, agencies of the United Nations, UK Department of International Development, Friedrich Ebert Foundation, British Council, Action Aid International, Namibian Prison Services, to mention but a few. Professor Alemika has been engaged in several national assignments, some of which include member, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, August 2015 to present, member of the Presidential Committee to study the recommendation and implementation strategies on strengthening internal security framework and community policing in Nigeria, 2019. Member, Presidential Panel on the Reform of Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SAS, of the Nigerian Police Force, October 2018 to June 2019. Member, Presidential Committee on Police Reform, January to May 2006. Chairman, Presidential Committee on Prison Reform, December 2005 to September 2006. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, through his academic and professional journey, Professor Alemika reflects exceptional depth of knowledge, influence, and brilliance in the security sector. He is profoundly dedicated to knowledge production, and his input will leave an indelible mark on the tapestry of learning. His work will impact many generations to come. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a distinguished Nigerian, an outstanding social scientist, an internationally recognized expert on criminology, a dynamic scholar, and the 2023 NIPS Distinguished Annual Lecturer, Professor Etanebi E.O. Alemika. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I at this point invite our distinguished lecturer to the podium. Please let's appreciate him.
I think the microphone was set for the DG NIPS. Thank you for bringing it down. Your Excellency, represented by the Honorable Minister of Transport, and like other people did, standing on the protocol, I'm also standing on the protocol. Naturally, I wouldn't do a protocol. I've been a teacher for 43 years, and the protocol in classroom is you walk in and say, good morning, students. If they like you, they will answer. If they don't like you, they snub you. That's the protocol I'm used to, and even in public, I can't do otherwise. But I must congratulate the participants who are graduating, especially this particular class. I was saying it, I said you go through crisis management. And I think the government this year decided that the management of the institute must go through crisis management. And I think the last 4 weeks had been the exercise in crisis management by the leadership of institute. I really want to thank the leadership for inviting me to this occasion to give the lecture. And I congratulate the participants who, after tomorrow, I think this evening, they will be inducted to what I call Mafia Nigeria Incorporated, MNI. And they also now begin to become visible in running the affairs of this country. Nowhere do you go to and you do not find the influence of this mafia, whether in the public and private sector, the military, and the rest of the institutions. So, congratulations for joining this mafia. I'm going to be reflecting. I don't want to stand between you and your graduation. So the paper is available. I think if you ask the organizer subsequently, they will provide you with the content of the paper. So I'm just going to more or less scratch what I have in the paper. I've titled the paper Security Challenges and Security Governance in Nigeria. And for me, I think this is critical at this point because almost the most dominant problem in Nigeria today that people discuss start from question of safety and security. And I think we need to begin to reflect. If you stayed on a problem for 2 decades, you'll be asking yourself, what are you doing? How well are you doing it? Why haven't you been able to solve the problem? And I think a lot of reflection need to go to security architecture and security governance in Nigeria. I start as a matter of introduction. After the introduction, if I can't go further, because Aisha is there. In my earlier career studying the police in the 80s, they tell you, they say, don't do anything beyond your rank. If at some point I'm stopped by the institute, after the introduction, I'll be satisfied that I have delivered my lecture. So for the introduction, I note that insecurity is determined by political, economic, and social structure and conditions of a country. I do not look forward to the armed forces, the police, and the paramilitary organization to be the solution to the Nigerian security problem, because they are not the creators. The creators are those major actors in our economic, political, and social institutions. And if you're looking for solution, you must go back to those creators, not those who have been employed to solve that problem. So that's the first point I would want us to take away. Security agencies are reactive instruments. That means there are preventive instruments. Those preventive instruments are politics, the economics, and then the social organization of society. If you don't get it right at those levels, there's no amount of effort of the security agencies that can solve your insecurity problems. That's the second point I want us to go home with. Then, of course, as I want to indicate, this is not the first time we're having a insecurity problem. If anything at all, insecurity has been part of Nigerian crisis. And the reason, again, goes back to the structure of our economy and the nature of our political behavior. So this insecurity in the country is not new to us. Every country, of course, has insecurity. What differs are usually the scale of the insecurity, the length of the insecurity, but most important, the capacity of the government to prevent those insecurity becoming a major concern to the citizens. So question of the security agencies is a matter of capability to resolve those crises when they have happened. But the government, political and economic decisions are the ones that are very preventive. So please, any security agencies from the army to the police to civil defense today, go home and rest that the major problem confronting the country today is that we have not made the economic and political decision we ought to make with respect to solving the insecurity, and it's not because we have not deployed enough army, not enough navy, enough air force, police, and the rest. So that's another point we need to do. We need to understand the limit, the constraint of the security agency in solving insecurity. So what that means is security agencies are meant to react to a limited conditions of insecurity if you adequately prevent them. Or in that reaction, they are supposed to have enough capability to respond as promptly as possible. I give an example. The total number of crimes committed in Nigeria is probably not more than those one committed in New York and California in the USA, just 2 states in America. The difference is within 24 hours in USA, there will be result. In 24 years in Nigeria, we'll still be looking for who did it. So that's a question of capability. So you find the challenge of problem and then the capacity to solve the problem. So for me, these are very important. We've always had crises. If you go to our history, you find that crisis occurred in the early 60s, which of course was the explanation for the 1966 coup. The whole electoral problems in the West was one of the excuse for January 15, 1966 coup. So we've always had problems. At some point it was armed robbery. Many of us will remember Oyenusi, will remember Anini and the rest of them. Those were panicky times also where armed robbery was dominant. And of course we found times when it was the militant in the Niger Delta. At one point it was the OPC. We had Matasine insurrection. So we are not new to crisis. So what is it that is specific in the current contemporary crisis? It is the fact that never in the history of Nigeria have we ever had insecurity, different forms of insecurity happening at the same time. If it was armed in the past, if it was armed robbery, we were confronted with armed robbery and we all collectively tried to solve armed robbery. If it was, militancy, it was one problem. But this is a time where we have about 7 to 9 major manifestation of insecurity occurring simultaneously. I think that is the major problem. And I think those in government, I think that's what they need to begin to understand. We had never have that multiple. That's what distinguishes between now. Otherwise, we're witnesses to 2000 and 2002. In just alone within 7 days, even government report said that not less than 1,600 people were killed in 2021. You will recall that in less than 3 days, as a result of reaction to Sharia in 2002, more than 2,000 people were killed within 3 days in Kaduna. So this is not the issue. We've always had it, but it's this complex one. And what makes this frightening is that they occurred individually. We did not treat them properly, and they have decided to occur at the same time. And I think that's the lesson for political decision makers. When you begin to have complex, I think in this institute here they call complex, complex insecurity, then you know your country is in very serious crisis. And you begin now to look for complex solutions and no longer simple solutions. And what is the simple solution? And that takes me to the concept of security. Traditionally, security was considered in terms of defense against the external enemy and prevention or the control of internal criminals. That was the traditional understanding of security. And to solve this problem, we had, a binary system of security. We had, the armed forces to protect us against external, aggressors, and then, of course, the other security agencies to deal with internal security. But in the last 12 years, my dear Chief of Defense Staff, how many external aggressors have you confronted? All the people to which you have been deployed as the armed forces are with respect to internal security. Does that mean we should maintain an architecture founded over, in respect of this dichotomy of external and internal? Globally, internal insecurity is actually greater than external aggression. Contemporarily, except we are talking of Russia, Russia and Ukraine, and more recently Hamas and Israel, we've not been bothered about those kind of large-scale aggression. So security for us now is not just in that simple terms. And I'm sure, again, here you have very senior officers, many who had gone to National Defense College. And my joke about National Defense College is the only reason they give you that FDC is that you're able to memorize Robert McNamara's quotation. That is the qualification for qualifying for FDC or whatever. So we now know that security is much broader than we have thought it was. If you didn't eat in the last 24 hours and you are in need, nobody's going to steal anything from you. You are not going to be attacked, but you feel very insecure. As we sit here, if your child was driven home from school yesterday and you don't know how you pay the school fees tomorrow, you will know that you are insecure. As you are sitting here, if you've been diagnosed by a doctor and you cannot pay for the cost of treatment, you are insecure. So we now know that security is about safety, about peace of mind, and the peace of mind facet of it means a well-being of the individual. So again, I think Nigeria begin to address this dichotomy between security and others. Many of our decisions do not take into consideration the security implication. I don't know, luckily the Honorable Minister of Transport was here. When you remove subsidy, did you factor in the security implication? Deliberately, not just as an afterthought. When you collapse the Naira, did you think of the economic consequences and the security implication? And I think this is the way we're moving. For every decision we make, we must ask ourselves, what is the security implication? And how can we mitigate this security implication? How can we build resilience against this security implication? If you do that, you will find that you will leave more time for the security agencies to train and become professional and solve the more minimal problem that exists within our society. But when you don't do that, What you do is you're actually asking the security forces to solve economic and political problems, which they are not trained to do. They are not trained to solve economic problems. I'm not sure how much economic theory the soldiers and the armed forces they know. I don't know how much of it they use in their operations. I think they are trained to do something else. And so governance is very important. I think the next point I want to take is then, how is our security architecture? What does it look like, our security governance? Again, here, there are a lot of people from security sector. But just looking at the structure, the constitution, and the rest of it, I can find that we have a range of institutions that constitute what might call security governance. At the head of this, of course, is the president, who is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And if you like, whether you say below or whatever, the next will be the National Assembly, because the National Assembly is the one that makes law, that authorizes and funds security. So is the next after the president. Then you have these two constitutional bodies, the Nigeria Defense Council and then the Nigeria Security Council, again representing the notion of dichotomy between internal and external. The idea is the Defense Council deals with issue of defense, which is essentially about external aggressors, while the Security Council deals with matters internal. I'm not sure whether that logic is appropriate, whether we shouldn't have a Nigeria Defense and Security Council as just one council, because the issues overlap. And I think the Constitution realizes this. Almost 60% of the membership of both actually overlap. So obviously there is some duplication of membership, and then a lack of clarity of thinking in terms of the bifurcation of the two institutions. But even if they were necessary, what I found is, what is the role of the two councils? They are advisory councils. They advise the president. And I come to that again later. Then below this, of course, we have the Armed Forces Council. And of course, you then have the Army Council, you have the Navy Board, and then you have the Air Force Council. And then you have the Nigeria Police Council, the Police Service Commission, the Civil Defense, Correction, Fire, Immigration Board, and then you have the individual board with respect to certain services like Customs, NDLA, ICPC, EFCC, Road Safety Commission. These ones have independent board which govern only one institution. And of course, you have the intelligence services under the oversight of the Office of the National Security Advisor. Ultimately, you have judiciary, which can determine whether the behavior of these organizations correspond with the intention of the law. So these bodies, if you put them together, they constitute what look like security architecture in Nigeria. But if you were asked to find a thread that goes through them, can you find any? It's a fragmented, architecture. A fragmented architecture without effective coordination. I said I will come back to Nigerian Civil and Defense Council, Defense Council and Security Council. I want to ask, where is the national body that is responsible for critical thinking, knowledge generation and production, and dissemination about security in Nigeria? That means Nigeria does not have an evidence research, knowledge-led policy think tank about security. And you want to solve security problem. In this generation, it doesn't happen. Society no longer exists on wishes, it exists on action. So I think that's the first gap in our security architecture. I would expect that the council, the two councils, Security and Defense Council, will have a secretariat or is fed by a research center about many of the issues of security. And when they come, they take policy decision and not advise the commander-in-chief. I think one other thing you'll see when you look at this is also the fact that many of these boards are human resource management boards. appointment, promotion, discipline, and the rest of it. Again, who formulate policy, who thinks about policy for them on day-to-day basis? Who? Where? So these are challenges that we face when we talk about security architecture and security governance in Nigeria. Now, let me just briefly talk about the security. I promise you, like I said, I learned some chicken have been assassinated, waiting to be consumed. I'm not going to stand in between you and your assassinated chickens. I know people will be saying, how can this person talk about security architecture and he didn't talk about police reform? You know, there is this debate about should we have a central police or should we have a decentralized police? And I think this is very key to the issue of security architecture, because ordinarily the police is the one that has the burden for policing the society. And so if you get it wrong with the police, you are likely to get it wrong with other agencies of policing, of civil policing. Let me just say what the literature says. First, the major argument for me, the most compelling argument about decentralization, whether you call it state or local government police, is the notion of federalism. In all federal system, there is, the prescription or the practice or tradition where every level of government also have the various layers of security and law enforcement. That means it's a federal. So the most compelling argument is structural. Because all federals, or most federals, have layers of police, we expect that you have federal, state, and local government. But they are not organized in the same way. For example, even in the US, which has over 37,000 independent police forces, but even within the state, you find in some places, state police is more like highway patrol. The local government, the city police, is the most powerful police that attend to day-to-day needs of citizens. So that is a federal argument. Of course, there is also the literature. Now, look at, there are a lot of literature on what is the relative efficacy of central and decentralized. The question is, there is no, the literature has shown that centralized and decentralized are not different in terms of their efficacy if they are well organized. They are not more or less corrupt if they are properly oversighted, and they are not any way less prone to refraining from brutality. So it means, therefore, that structure does not determine the efficacy of police. It means that structure does not determine the efficacy of police, whether centralized. And you can contrast the experience of, say, US, Canada, and the rest of them. Contrast that with France and Sweden. Sweden is the most peaceful country in the world, and yet it has a centralized police. Britain is not a federation, it's a unitary system. It used to, late as 1960, about 1940, it had more than 100 police forces. Today, they have only 43. And even those 43 are subject to the dictate of the Home Secretary, which we now call the Minister of Interior in Nigeria. So when we argue some of these, rather than focusing on the important thing as to why are people committing crime for which we need police, we should be focusing on why are people not getting education? Why are people not getting job? Why are people not getting health care? Why people are not able to realize their aspirations, which leads some of them into crime? And what can we do to arrest and solve this problem in order to reduce crime? We're talking about letting people commit crime and then find the police to find the criminal. It doesn't make sense. It's not a good way of thinking. You rather keep your property well rather than expose it and let it be stolen, and you're looking for the thief that took it away. So I think this is an important thing about the thinking about the police. What I think can be done, which is we call multi-layer policing system, structure, it can be done between the centralized and decentralized. So what, if you go by the current police, a lot of devolution of power is necessary. You see the layers from the force headquarters right down to the police post. do you devolve resources right through, appropriately through these layers? And I think that is the problem. Of course, are they also adequately funded? I'm sure when they were reading my citation, which I found very interesting because I've been warned. There was a story I had. Just as the man finishes his citation like that, the lecturer ran away because it sounds so elegant that he knew he could not stand up to that, and that they have, MCs have fabricated them. So I was wondering, I was looking, and then I didn't find an easy way. That will still find me on the here. If not, I have found my way out. So I think what we need to do is to find how do we devolve not just power but resources along the chains of command. Again, I give you an example. At the early stages of Boko Haram, each time you travel, and we must commend the military, the armed forces. I always say, whatever you have against the military, they're still the most disciplined force. They're still the ones that you can get what you expect, and somebody is held accountable for what is wrong, no matter whatever you say. And what struck me was, a wanderer, so wandering between Abuja and Jos, I found that even those ones that in very distant places, during lunchtime, a hillock parks, he gives the food to those people. Isn't it true? They are well fed on that job. What happened that the police cannot be well fed when on duty? Why must they beg me for 50 kobo so that they can feed to get pure water? Because you say they are corrupt. We have example why the military is not corrupt. Because the leadership, to a very large extent, ensure they know wherever they are, and they make sure they look after their welfare wherever they are. They know how they got to where they are posted and how they will be retrieved from where they are posted. Police is in a situation in which we have placed them in which none of this happened. And you are looking for a good police. When you can't do that, you say it's decentralization, it's state police. I ask you, is the state independent electoral commissions, do they perform better than INEC? In Nigeria, the ruling party does not win all the election at the federal level. But tell me which state in which when the election is conducted, the party in power is not the one that wins all the elections. That's the state you want to give police to. Go to education. Tell me which state runs secondary and tertiary education better than the federal. Because you can't run it, you run to federal government college and create politics around admissions of federal government colleges. You can't run your health care, and then you will not address it. You leave your governors alone, and then you run to federal, and you are querying why this and that, because you are going to be treated in federal medical center. We also begin to leak about the structure of our system, where the governors are not responsible for anything but to themselves, and therefore development has collapsed. That is the difference between the first and the other republics that follow. The first republic, the governors or premier, as we call them then, they were responsible to the last village. I grew up, knew that almost every village in northern Nigeria had no less than 3 workers. You will have teachers. You will also have a Greek extension officer. It's likely to have a dispensary, which has a dispenser. It's also likely to have adult education coordinators. That's how we grew in the northern Nigeria. Where are these workers today? If you employ them, they will insist on staying in government, and there is no instrument of discipline to make them go to serve people in rural areas. That is why you have banditry. That's why you have all the insecurity. So it's not the police that will solve that problem. It's my dear governor that will insist that a Greek extension officer stayed in the local government, that the teacher lives there, that he gives good education, that the adults that want to read in the night after farming we can read. That is the security we are asking for. That is the direction that security must go. So I urge us, as we think about our country, we need to begin to look at other institutions. We need to avoid blaming. Where and how did we get to where we are? And I'm rounding up already. Nigeria says, where or when did the rain start beating us? There were scattered rain, but the rain came in 1986 when we adopted structural adjustment program. So that takes us back that means even with policy making, we must learn for the consequences of policies. What did the structural adjustment program did? Before 1986, all governments from independence to that point were pursuing, in economics here we know, what we call import substitution industrialization. That means we're creating industry that will produce what we need, what we have imported, especially during colonial era. And it was to have an economic self-reliance. The SARP came and destroyed all that. And I'm sure we have amnesia. Somebody had done about 3 different ones, and they listed companies that died since 1986. And it just occurred to me, and I said, that is true. We were all using Excite battery. I'm sure we remember Excite battery, Michelin tire, Dunlop. Where are they today? It's one name you cannot pronounce from China. What drove them away? SAP. And of course, the SAP also told us that government should no longer do certain things that we were doing before. I grew partly in Kaduna. In Kaduna, even when I was an undergraduate in the university, if you wanted an eyeglass, you got free diagnosis, you got free glasses and frame. And you know this black frame, which was, I call another frame. It was black and plastic. It is free. It is when you now want a psychedelic frame that you pay. This was 1978. Where are those health facilities today? The only health facilities we have today are in names. They give us one, like look at a shed, a poultry shed, and they said specialist hospital. What is special about this? Except that it does not do what it's supposed to do. That's the only thing that is special about it, not in the services that is provided. So I think SAP, we need to go back and see the consequence. It de-industrializes us. It makes us less industrialized than we used to be. And therefore, we became import dependent. That is why everybody who wakes up is talking about Naira. I give you one example. 2017, I had the privilege of being in South Korea. We were also having this, I think that was one of the depression we had around that time. And dollar was 460 to Naira to a dollar. We were checking in, and those of you who've been to South Korea, we got into the place. At the hotel, it was 1,200 won to a dollar. I looked at the fellow Nigerian and said, we they enjoy for Nigeria. I was wrong. After 1 week, I learned, because I went to our embassy, I went through some people, and I said, what is happening? South Koreans have almost all what they needed. And the exchange rate is punitive for elite who wants to import elsewhere. Most of the things you needed were in that country. So an average South Korean does not know dollar. That's the way to go. To be able to produce the things we need. Our ability has been capacitated by this. Then the second thing about dollar, it said government should not do a number of things that the governments are known to do. Again, that's why you find privatization came in, and gradually government was reduced to, I don't know what to call it. That's the crisis of insecurity. So an average Nigerian citizen wakes up today not knowing where to go, who is responsible for what, and who cares for him. And a Hobbesian state of nature had descended on us in this country. And I hope, and through you, the Honorable Minister, decision you are taking, please ask, are we going back to SAP, which looks like it, and what have we benefited from SAP? If SAP took us where we are, do we need to continue, or do we have to rethinking? I think if it's, you ask me, I think we need a lot of rethinking. So this is where we are today. We are in a country without a well-defined security architecture. The governance is fragmented and, of course, uncoordinated. And yet, we have never had it in terms of complex insecurity in the country as it is today. And for us to move further, we must not continue as usual. Only a foolish man continued to move when he needs to stop and rethink. And I like this word. I think it starts from a religious word, retreat. I think Nigeria needs a retreat to think before it moves forward. And I think that's where we are. Thank you for listening.
I think the lecturer deserves a standing applause. Let's put our hands together for that wonderful and insightful lecture by Professor Etanibi Alemika. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. We hope we'll be able to get a copy of the lecture so that we can publish it for people to interact with some of the things that you have brought forward. Thank you very much. We are grateful to you. All right. All right. The title of that lecture, Security Challenges and Security Governance in Nigeria. We have the commitment of Professor Alemika that we can publish that lecture. And so if you are interested in getting a copy of that lecture, get in touch with the Institute editor in the next 2 weeks, and you can get a copy for yourself. Very quickly, we are going to the next segment of the program. We are going to be taking Goodwill messages. The first Goodwill message we'll be taking is from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, OFR. I expect that when the CDS is giving his Goodwill message, he will also be responding to some of the things that our distinguished lecturer has talked about in the course of his lecture. Seeing that the title of the lecture is something that is squarely within the ambit of his. All right, so we will take a Goodwill message from the Chief of Defense Staff. After that, we will also take a Goodwill message from the President of the Alumni Association of the National Institute, His Excellency Ambassador Emmanuel Obi Okafor, MNI. And then finally, we'll also take a Goodwill message from one of our sister agencies, federal government agencies. That's from the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, who is represented here tonight by Mrs. Adetola Ajay, the Director of Field Services. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite the CDS to please come forward. Shall we rise up on our feet and give him a round of applause as he comes forward to give us his Goodwill message. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Please take your seats. Thank you very much. Our special guest of honor, the Honorable Minister of Transport, other invited guests, please permit me to stand on the already established protocols. I've always found it very difficult when we look at sometimes our protocol list. It sometimes looks like another lecture. I think it's always it's something that probably NIPS should also look at so that they can advise government. Maybe at the first instance you read all through, maybe at the middle and at the end, so that we cut. I remember Madeleine Albright once visited Nigeria, and when they gave her the protocol list, it was like 3 pages. And she said, this is another lecture. I think we need to also oversee that. Well, somehow I'm in a mix because having to respond immediately, a discussion was made on the issue of security. All I have to say is that Nigeria is going through several challenges, and we all know our challenges. I've always, based on my own experience, have realized that our challenges are man-made. Most times you see developed economies suffering from natural disasters. Is it a hurricane or flood or whatever? But for ours, God has blessed us with an area that we are immune or protected from such kind of challenges. But then we have the human challenges. And I'm sure if as humans we decide to say today, this thing will be over, I'm sure God is on our side, we will achieve that. So we should look forward to doing that. The security forces are doing, most times I look at us as magicians. Because if you look at what you need to perform duties, if you compare yourself to other countries and what you have and what you are achieving, it's just a miracle. So we'll continue to do and we'll continue to fine-tune. There are lapses, no doubt about it. But I'm sure people are determined. Whether the military, the police, the immigration, civil defense, everybody is trying to put in the best that we can. But again, if you look at it, what does it fall upon? Good leadership. We must have good leaders. And leaders that love Nigeria as Nigeria. 2 weeks ago, I just returned from Russia. I had the privilege of being there for some time. And then I stopped over at Doha, Qatar. And I wept. It took them 15 years from desert to what they have today. 15 years. And I said to myself, why? The only thing they have is natural gas. With a population of 500,000. But they've been able to move themselves from third world to first world. And I asked myself, why not us? We have everything that we need to achieve that. Everything. God has blessed us. I think has over-blessed us. Maybe it has also become a challenge. We need to sit down and, like you said, a retreat to always look at why are we where we are. I remember in those days when we were secondary school, we heard about Vision 2020, Vision 2010 and all this. And we wanted to be among the first 20 economy, 2020. And I asked myself, it's just like running marathon race. If you assume that today you want to be among the first 20, which means you have to identify one country that you're going to overtake. Which country are we identifying? We have the capacity. We have the leadership, we have the material resources, we have the minerals. Everything that we have, we need, we have. But somehow, we're not there. But I'm sure we'll get there. That we're determined and that we're focused. Unity of purpose is basic and most important. We must take ownership of Nigeria. What we don't do is that we think somebody else should come and fix Nigeria for us. Nobody will. Now we have the issue of Japan. Everybody wants to leave. And I tell them that if everybody in those countries had left, will they have fixed their country? You don't expect anybody to fix you. You must stay and say, look, it is enough, we must. Starting from elections. How many people go to vote? We see very high numbers. I think this time around it was about 91 million registered voters. How many voted? Most people just feel it's not necessary. Even if you feel your votes won't count, go and vote. You have made a statement. And that's the beginning of it. And that's what democracy starts for. So I want to thank the college for this, for the opportunity to be here, especially our lecturer. You have said it all. Challenges are there. What do we do about the challenges? I think psychologists say if a madman tells you he's mad, he's 60% okay. So if we know that we have challenges, so I'm sure we know what we're supposed to do and how we can go about it. The incident in Kaduna is very unfortunate. I always want to mention it. It's very sad. It's something that shouldn't have taken place. But it's a mistake. And it was because those in charge were actually they had a report, something was going to happen, and at that instant, something similar to what normally happens. And they got carried away, and then they reacted. It wasn't on purpose. But you see, when you listen to the news, my fear is when we discourage our troops, next time, even when the real ones comes, they will not want to act because they will say, if we do, and it's a mistake, we won't do anything. So I think we should try and look at these things dispassionately when incidences occur. Nobody in his right mind will wake up and just look at people and just bomb them for that reason. We are all Nigerians. We are meant to protect Nigerians. And that is what we are doing. In the course of it, we might make mistakes because we are humans, but it will never be deliberate. So I want to appeal to all of us to firstly always pray for Nigeria, pray for our leaders, stand strong, believe in this country. It's a great and wonderful country that we have. We must not let it down. So I want to thank once again, on behalf of members of the armed forces and for the Institute for doing a wonderful job. The commandant we have met on several occasions. I've been very proud every time I visited because it's always looking new. Things are always improving, and that's how it should be. I want to thank you very much for the work you do, and then you and the entire staff. We're waiting for the participants that are passing out, we have tasks for you ahead already with the new knowledge you are bringing, so that you can come and let us improve on our operations. Once again, on behalf of members of the armed forces, I want to say a big thank you for this opportunity and congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. The Chief of Defense Staff has said to us, every one of us believe in Nigeria. We cannot afford to let her down. It's a responsibility that every one of us has, and we must live up to that important responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, my honor, to also invite the Executive Governor of Plateau State, His Excellency Barrister Caleb Mutfwang, ably represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Architect Samuel Jatau, to deliver his goodwill message. Please put your hands together. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ably represented by the Minister of Transport, the DG, Professor Omotayo, the CDS, who gave a wonderful speech just a short while ago, our distinguished graduates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I stand here on behalf of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, who is unavoidably absent because he's out of town. He sends his greetings, he sends his love. A lot has been said, but before I say much, I want to thank the guest lecturer who gave a very apt lecture. He got my attention throughout, and he said so many wonderful things that are correct. Then the CDS came and capped it up. So I have a thesis topic for the graduates. Yes, our leaders, we always say the right things, but things are always going the wrong way. Find out why for us, please. Plateau State is honored to host this wonderful community. NIPS is an ivory tower for us in Nigeria. And we know that when you come here after, is it 10 months or so, and you leave as, he has now said, Mafia, what? Nigeria Incorporated. I don't know whether it's true. But the point I want to make is, when you go out there, it is about value addition. We need to see your Midas touch in our offices, in governance, in all the aspects of governance that you come from, business and so on and so forth. And we as a state are always ready to partner with this institution to help see. The DG thanked the Army, the Navy, and he's not listening to me. He thanked the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, but he forgot to mention Plateau State government, because I know that over the years we have been a partner with NIPS. As I speak to you, yesterday there was a letter from NIPS on my table soliciting for support, which we are always doing. So I expect that the DG should have given us special thanks. Particularly the government of Barrister Caleb Mutfwang is a doing government. One of our major thrusts is agriculture. We are looking at food sustainability, and you can see that insecurity is both political and economic. These are the major factors from our lecture. So if that is the case, and we are looking at food sustainability, we are already addressing food insecurity. We are already addressing insecurity. Plateau State is safe. That's why you are graduating today. Am I right? Thank you. So all the negative news you get out there is politics. But Plateau State is safe, and we're going to make it better. But we need you to partner with us to make Plateau State a heaven, because this is the state with the best weather in Nigeria. This is the best place that you can build your retirement home. We are inviting you to come to Plateau State and get land, because this government is going to change the narrative on the plateau. You will live safely and happily. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Please let's invite the President of the Alumni Association of the National Institute, His Excellency Ambassador Emmanuel Obi Okafor, MNI, to please come forward. Thank you. Yes.
The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Honorable Minister of Transport, permit me to stand on what the CDS has said on the existing protocol. I didn't hear much clap from the participants. I hope they want to graduate today and receive the MNI badge and become what the distinguished lecturer, Professor Amimikis, described as Mafia Nigeria Incorporated. I bring you goodwill from the Alumni Association. It has been a very tasking period, but I want to commend the sagacity of the management team of NIPS, led by our amiable Professor Ayo Motayo, for their doggedness. I left NIPS here 16 years ago in 2007, and each time I came back to NIPS, I always have that nostalgia of remaining in NIPS. That means they are doing very well. But the important thing is this particular SEC. SEC 44 was very robust. But I told the SEC 44 MG that I'm so happy that SEC 45 is more robust than SEC 44. You know why? The uncertainties of the transition, and you are still looking happy, well-seated, and well-grounded. And the report we received yesterday from the Villa described your work as very, very invaluable contribution to national development. So I want to assure the CDS that this crop of persons from your department, you can rely on them. And I want to thank the management of NIPS once again, and on behalf of the Alumni Association, want to welcome these bright new ones into our fold. We'll be doing the induction later, and that is when I will unveil other things for you. Congratulations in advance.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. I'm sure SEC 45 appreciates you greatly. Thank you. All right, we'll be taking the last goodwill message, and that will be coming from the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, Dr. Afiz Ogun Oluwatoyin, who is represented at this occasion by Mrs. Adetola Ajay. Please put your hands together as Mrs. Adetola Ajay comes forward to give us her goodwill message. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, please permit me to stand on the well-established protocol. My name is Adetola Ajay. I'm here representing the Director General and the Chief Executive of the Industrial Training Fund, who is out of town, and so he is unavoidably absent at this occasion. Well, he has asked me to give his special greetings to the dignitaries, and most importantly, the Director General of NIPS, Professor Ayo Omotayo. As you are probably aware, the Industrial Training Fund is a federal government parastatal A organization that is charged with the responsibility of training and development of the nation's human resource. Our mandate is to promote and encourage acquisition of skills in industry and commerce. And this is with a view to generating a pool of indigenous manpower that will be enough to man the affairs of the economy, both in the public and the private sector. I've always noticed that this high-level institution, NIPS, is the nation's foremost think tank that is set up to develop a crop of top-class technocrats of high reputation with advanced intellectual capacity. And there are certain similarities in our key activities and that of the NIPS. For example, in NIPS, you take cognizance of research, you conduct research, you organize workshops and seminars, just as we do, only that for different set of audience and for a different purpose. Also, workshops and courses are being implemented. Prominent among those courses is the senior executive course that we are witnessing the graduation today. And so, on behalf of our DG and Chief Executive, Dr. Afiz Oluwatoyin Ogun, we wish to congratulate the graduates of the Senior Executive Course 45 of 2023. We wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, represented by Mrs. Adetola Ajay. Thank you for your good remarks. Now, there is a tradition that was established in the National Institute some 3 years ago, and that tradition has come to stay. And that tradition is the delivery of a valedictory speech by the Monitor General of the course. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to clap, please clap. Yes. Thank you. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to invite the Monitor General of the Senior Executive Course 45, 2023, Colonel Ibrahim Yusuf, to please come forward and deliver his valedictory speech. Please put your hands together for him. You're welcome.
His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Honorable Minister of Transport, Alhaji Saidu Ahmed Al-Kali. Permit me to humbly and most respectfully stand on the already established protocol. Today marks a momentous occasion as we gather here to celebrate the culmination of our collective journey in Senior Executive Course 45 of 2023. It is an honor and privilege for me to stand before you as the Monitor General of this distinguished course and share a few thoughts on behalf of the remarkable individuals who make up Senior Executive Course 45. The course assembled on the 10th of February 2023, and by the grace of Almighty God, we are graduating today, 9th September 2023. A total of 97 of us started the 10-month rigorous, highly demanding, educating, and rewarding course, and same number of us are graduating today. I wish to humbly express our special appreciation to Mr. President for granting us the rare opportunity of graduating from this noble, prestigious, highest thinking tank institution for policy and strategic studies in the country. We are indeed very grateful. Your Excellency, sir, the theme of Senior Executive Course 45 is Industrialization, Energy Security and Climate Change in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges and Prospects. And it consists of 9 modules, which include Understanding Nigerian State, Research Methodology, Industrialization, Energy Security and Climate Change in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges and Prospects. And others are Policy and Strategy Leadership, Economic and Management Studies, Science, Technology and Innovation, International Relations, Defense and Security Studies, as well as Peace and Conflict Studies. During the course period, we went on strategic tours to 14 ministries, departments, and agencies that are critical to this theme of study. We also went on a local study tour to 7 states of the Federation, and we equally visited 7 African countries and 6 countries outside Africa. This enabled us to enhance our research and findings on the course theme. Additionally, we listened to a total of 128 lectures from erudite scholars of national and international repute. Apart from individual research projects, Senior Executive Course 45 of 2023 had a very rewarding crisis game, sport week, and of course, a very, very impressive parley with Mr. President. Senior Executive Course 45, in all honesty, is a very unique, blessed, and special, with a combination of intellectuals from both public and private sectors. As we reflect on our challenges, triumphs, and wealth of knowledge we have gained over the past 10 months, I am reminded of the dedication and the camaraderie that define our collective experience. Senior Executive Course is not just an academic pursuit. It is a transformative journey that shapes leaders, fostering a deeper understanding of the complexity of our dear nation. Together, we have delved into the intricacies of leadership, strategy, and governance. We have engaged in thought-provoking discussions, challenged our assumptions, and broadened our perspectives. The friendship forged and bonds created and the lessons learned have laid an indelible mark on each one of us. Our time together has been characterized by the pursuit of excellence and commitment to service, and shared a vision of contribution to the progress and prosperity of our great nation. The diversity, background, experiences, and expertise within the cohort has been our strength and enabled us to tackle complex issues with strategic approach. The special guest of honor, sir, permit me to acknowledge the commitment of Senior Executive Course 45 in adding value to this great institution. Essentially, our legacy project, which is a construction of a training center that's about to be commissioned any moment from now. This training center was constructed to, among other things, enable middle career military and paramilitary career officers and the personnel of commensurate category in the public and the private sector to attend courses in strategic leadership, policy formulation, and implementation of other aspects of leadership training at the National Institute is known for. This project, which is worth well over 100 million naira, has no doubt improved the overall infrastructural backbone of this great institution. I also use the medium to commend the Muslims and the Christian participants for their individual and collective contributions to the project of the Institute Mosque and the Chapel. We did not only show mutual respect for each other's religion, but set a pace for harmony and coexistence among us. Now, the 2 major religions in the country. Please appreciate members of Senior Executive Course 45 with a resounding applause. On this note, I wish to appreciate Mr. President for commanding the Senior Executive Course 45 report during the just concluded parley at the Presidential Villa yesterday. We are indeed grateful and hope our recommendations and the implementation strategies be considered towards a better society. A big thank you to His Excellency, Mr. Vice President, for the strategic guidance, support, and direction. To the Chairman, Board of Governors, Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs, Inspector General of Police, Head of Service Agencies, we thank you immensely. Our appreciation goes to the Plateau State Government for the invaluable support, in fact, even our legacy project, and love for the participant and the institution as a whole. I extend our deepest appreciation to the National Institute faculty, staff, and the mentors who have guided us through this enriching experience. Your dedication to imparting knowledge and instilling a sense of strategic leadership in each one of us has been invaluable. I must commend the doggedness and the resilience of our dynamic Director General, Professor Ayo Omotayo, for ensuring that all our talks took place accordingly, though with a lot of challenges. Our special thanks goes to the President, executive members of the alumni for your words of encouragement and sacrifices that ensures the sustenance of the tradition of the members of the National Institute. We say a big thank you and promise to be active members of the alumni. To our invited guests, spouses, relations, friends, and well-wishers, we are indeed grateful for being there for us. Lastly, we thank Kuru community and the entire good people of Plateau State for the hospitality. To my fellow participants, thank you for your unwavering commitment, collaboration, and the passion you brought to every discussion and project. Together, we have not only completed a course, but laid the foundation for a network of leaders, bond, and shared commitment for excellence. As we stand to the precipice of a new chapter in our careers, let us carry forward the lessons learned and the principles instilled during this course, as well as agents of positive change, leaders who inspire and catalysts for progress in our respective spheres of influence. I wish to express my heartfelt congratulations to each member of the Senior Executive Course 45. May we continue to strive unto greatness, uphold the values of service and integrity, and contribute meaningfully to the betterment of our beloved nation. I wish everyone a safe trip back to your various destinations. Thank you all, and God bless.
Can we please appreciate the valedictorian with another round of applause? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege to invite an Amazon in the intellectual constellation of Kuru, a woman of many parts in the administration of the Directorate of Studies, in the person of Professor Oluwafumilayo Josephine Paramala, MNI, for the conferment to formally, I beg your pardon, introduce the participants to the Director General and CEO of the National Institute, Madame la Directrice, à vous la parole.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. President, Your Excellency, very ably represented here today by the Honorable Minister of Transport, it is with a very deep sense of joy and gratitude to Almighty God that I stand here today to call up the graduates of Senior Executive Course 45, 2023. For the past 10 months, These top-level executives, captains of industry in their diverse fields of endeavor, have been baked in the oven of rigorous and intense policy-engaged research, group brainstorming, and leadership training. Senior executive course learning practice activities typically consist of lectures, interactive sessions delivered by highly knowledgeable and experienced resource persons who are drawn from an external as well as an internal pool of scholars and practitioners. As earlier noted by the DG himself, this year, in addition to our lectures, we were privileged to have the second Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series, an initiative begun by the DG in 2022, as well as an intense round table with individual and organizational experts, theme partners who came here to provide their own expert-based input into the Presidential Parley Report. This report was presented to Mr. President in Council yesterday, alongside a roadmap on how to achieve sustainable industrialization and an energy-secure future for Nigeria. It would interest you to note that Senior Executive Course 45 participants received a high presidential endorsement of this report. It is therefore apt and befitting, Your Excellency, that today we are gathered here to both honor and celebrate them. But please, graduates, please note, as the MG also hinted, it is the sincere hope and expectation of the National Institute that the knowledge, experiences, skills, and values imbibed in NIPS will be carried forward towards a better society. And this has to come about in your respective private as well as public endeavors. And we believe that you will do just that. Your Excellency, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before calling them up, it is important to place on record that this year's Senior Executive Course program would not have been possible without the indomitable commitment of the Director General, along with the dogged determination and commitment of management and a high caliber crop of directing staff, senior fellows, and indeed the entire NIPS staff team. In particular, the NIPS faculty have been on the front line of providing academic input and mentorship to participants throughout the course of the year, and I would please crave their indulgence to rise for recognition, the faculty of the National Institute. Thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you. You may be seated. Your Excellency, sir, before I call up the names, I would ask the participants to please rise and invite the Director General to be the one to confer on them the distinguished membership of the National Institute. Please rise. The Director General, sir.
Sec 45 participants. I agree that it was tough. I remember like a week ago, I wasn't getting what I wanted, and I asked all of you, regardless of who you thought you were, to remove your caps. I don't know whether I'm going to get the opportunity again to other big men that everybody remove your cap. Well, Director of Studies, thank you for a job well done. It was a very tough year, but we thank God that we are here today. By the powers conferred on me as the Director General of the National Institute. But before I do so, let me ask. No, I needed to ask him to come because I'm not a member of the National Institute, but they are the ones that will eventually, so I want him to stand by me while I admit all of you from the various sectors of the Nigerian economy into the membership Are you still ready? Yes. Willing? Yes. And you think you are still able? Yes. Don't forget the charge. You are all change agents. And when you go back into society, you must make that difference. Remember what Mr. President said yesterday. He said Nigeria has the men. Nigeria has what? And you are what? You are the men and the women. So by the powers conferred on me as the Director General of the National Institute, I want to admit you all into the membership of the National Institute. Thank you very much.
Congratulations is in order on behalf of the Director General, the management and the directing staff, senior fellows, and the entire NIBS community. We say congratulations. Please be seated. Until you receive that badge, please be seated. So with your kind permission, Your Excellency, and on behalf of the Director General of the National Institute, I will now call out their names in alphabetical order to come up here and receive their certificates, conferring on them indeed the prestigious award of Member of the National Institute. I now proceed. Abagi Stephen Nichia, Mr. Permanent Secretary, Benue State Government. Oh, my sincere apologies, the special guest of honor. Sir, thank you, sir. Mr. Stephen Abagi, please proceed. Permanent Secretary, Benue State Government. One of his hobbies is cooking. Comrade Abakpa Anthony, National President, Nubifit, and from the Nigeria Labour Congress. Abbas Bello Yahaya, Colonel, Nigerian Army. Abdullahi Ibrahim, Commissioner of Police. Mr. Sani Bakori Abdullahi, Director, Department of State Services. Colonel Murtala Danjuma Abdusalam, Nigerian Army. Please remember to face the camera when you come up. Mr. Musa Abubakar, Director, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Dr. Barrister Adeniyi Adedoyin, Director, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Service. Mr. Adeleke Adefolaju, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Ekiti State Government. Funsho Adegboyega Adegboye, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Dr. Abisola Shekina Adegoke, Director, Federal Ministry of Health, sponsored by the Office of the Head of the Civil Service. Wasiu Ademola Adegoke, Colonel, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Barrister Samuel Olushola Agbeluyi, President, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Honorable Oluwarotimi Ojo Agunsoye, Member, House of Representatives, sponsored by the Presidency. Kunle Adeniran Akinwale, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Mrs. Olayinka Titilope Aleto, Executive Secretary, CEO, sponsored by the Presidency. Abubakar Sadiq Aliu, Colonel, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Dr. Godwin Chinonso Anigbo, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Enugu State Government. Joseph Nama Atahiru, Colonel, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Dr. Adedeji Abiodun Awobotu, Consultant Council Member, sponsored by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN. Dr. Danjuma David Baba, Rector, sponsored by the National Board for Technical Education. Dr. Dieter Ahmed Bassi, Director, sponsored by NAITI. Mohammed Farouk Borgu, Group Captain, sponsored by the Nigerian Air Force. Kilo Alaji Bukar, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by Yobe State Government. Yakubu Kwaji Bizgu Dali, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Captain Dayabu Mustafa Danraka, Director, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation and the first civilian to graduate in this capacity from his agency. Patience Homshuk Donjur, Mrs., Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Plateau State Government, daughter of the soil. Barrister Ede Ogunaike Nkiru Henrietta, General Manager and Director, sponsored by the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund. Professor Francisca Avua Egbokhari, Nigerian Universities Commission. Aliyu Ofoha Yusuf Emekoma, Colonel, sponsored by the Nigerian Army and the Imam of the participants of Senior Executive Course 45, 2023. Mrs. Chikaodi Rose Eminalom, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Imo State Government. Dr. Gani Enahoro, CEO, Veterinary Consultant, sponsored by the Presidency. Mr. Sunday Jeffrey Eze, Director, Defense Intelligence Agency. Controller Okpeyemi Fatinikun, sponsored by the Nigeria Correctional Service. Adegoke Mustafa Fayoade, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Emmanuel Tamunosiki Fingesi, Navy Captain, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. Aminu Sani Gadanya Esquire, sponsored by the Nigerian Bar Association. Mr. Idris Shehu Gaya, Director, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation. Colonel John Okuwari George, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Mr. Samaila Mohammed Goni, Director, sponsored by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Navy Captain Mahmoud Hamanyero, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. Barrister Sam Ifeanyi Hart, Director General, sponsored by the Presidency. And one of our presenters. Professor Mohammed Sani Haruna, Engineer Professor I should say, former Director General of NASENI, sponsored by the Presidency. Colonel Bashiru Mohammed Ibrahim, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Mr. Enejo Celestine Idoko, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Kogi State Government. Dr. Kabir Idris, Senior Fellow, sponsored by the Presidency. Dr. Samuel Enemaku Igagu, Director, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation. Benneth Chinedum Igwe, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Dr. Roslyn Igio Izuagbe, Director, sponsored by the Department of State Services. Dr. Adetayo Akintunde John Fishers, Managing Director, sponsored by the Presidency. Congrats. Mrs. Teni Pitiko Kabiru, Director, representing all women on the course, sponsored by the National Council of Women's Societies. Dr. Ahmed Mansour Kazaure, Chief Lecturer Director, sponsored by the Presidency. Mr. Ahmed Rufai Khalid, General Counsel, sponsored by the Nigerian National Petroleum Limited Company. Mohammed Ali Kolo, Navy Captain, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. ACG Mukhtar Lawal, sponsored by the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. Barrister Ado Umar Lalu, lecturer, sponsored by the Presidency. Ambassador Ayo Luther Ogbomode, Director, sponsored by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also one of our presenters. Group Captain Fauziu Sani Maji, sponsored by the Nigerian Air Force, one of the anchors of our roadmap. Saidu Solomon Kumo Melabari, Navy Captain, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. Mohammed Shekari Malami, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Kebbi State Government. Colonel John Chukwunaemeka Mbanefo, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Mr. Mohammed Aliko Mohammed, partner, sponsored by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Dr. Mukhtar Yawale Mohammed, Director in the Federal Ministry of Health, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Dr. John Egwolo Mukoro, President, CEO, sponsored by the Presidency. Shehu Umar Nadada, Commissioner of Police, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Barrister Jasper Osita Nduaguike, Second Deputy National President, sponsored by the Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. Comptroller Franca Usioma Nwaneka, Comptroller, sponsored by the Nigeria Immigration Service. Mr. Emmanuel Ebelechukwu Ochei, Director, CEO, sponsored by the Presidency. Engineer Frank Kolawole Odom, Director, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. From the Ministry of Mineral Resources. Dr. Sarah Onyeche Oga Aduware, Managing Director, CEO, sponsored by the Presidency. She loves to play golf. I'm thinking of joining her. Commodore Adiola Olusegun Ogungbemide, Corps Commander, Commander, Federal Road Safety Corps, sponsor. Mr. Oladipo Oladimeji Israel Ogunleye, Managing Director, CEO, sponsored by the Presidency. Professor Akpobo Okeri, Professor of Pharmacy, sponsored by the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Barrister Abdulkadir Sikiru Olajide, Director, sponsored by the Federal Judicial Service Commission. Group Captain Raphael Kolade Olundu, sponsored by the Nigerian Air Force. Engineer Obafemi Owosheni Omokungbe, Rector, Chief Lecturer, sponsored by the Presidency. Colonel Oludare Olumide Oni, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Navy Captain Emmanuel Aja Onu, sponsored by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Mr. Olurogba Adiko Orimalade, Estate Surveyor and Valuer, sponsored by the Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. Dr. Etinosa Philip Osaibovo, Director, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Dr. Oluwasegun Adewale Oshidipe, Director, sponsored by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and also one of our presenters. Dr. Kingsley Chukwuka Ozele, Head of Medical and Health Services Department, Consultant, sponsored by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Another son of the soil, the NIP soil. Omobolanle Falilat Sabiu, Director, sponsored by the Defense Intelligence Agency, and also one of our presenters. Mr. Ishkil Olanriwanju Saka, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Ogun State Government. Professor Balarabe Garko Sani, sponsored by the National Universities Commission. Group Captain Rashid Adebayo Sikuru, sponsored by the Nigerian Air Force. Navy Captain Feishara Medinat Sholebo, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. Commissioner of Police Mohammed Abdul Suleiman, sponsored by the Nigeria Police Force. Mr. Uchena Raymond Onigwe, Executive Director, sponsored by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Mr. Umar Kukandaka Usman, Director, sponsored by the Presidency. Dr. Hadi Bala Yunusa, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Kano State Government. Sorry, I take that again. Dr. Hadi Bala Yahaya, Permanent Secretary, sponsored by the Kano State Government. I beg your pardon. Dr. Bala Yusuf, Senior Technical Advisor in the Office of the President on SDGs, a very anchor point on this presentation, and sponsored by the Presidency. I should say a major anchor point on the presentation. Colonel Ibrahim Yusuf, MG for life, sponsored by the Nigerian Army, and the lead presenter of our report. And last, but most certainly not the least, is Navy Captain Andrew Zidon of the Nigerian Navy, also one of our presenters. I should have said that Dr. Unisa was the Rapporteur General of the course. He deserves a clap for that. And Navy Captain Zidon was the Assistant Rapporteur General. Your Excellency, sir, that brings me to the end of our presentation of graduates, and on your behalf, I offer most sincere and hearty congratulations. Thank you.
Can we please appreciate His Excellency with another round of applause? Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the special guest of honor, for the presentation of certificates alongside with the Director General. Also want to thank the Director of Studies for calling out all the names. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is our tradition here at the National Institute that the graduates are inducted into the family of Annie. And so it is my singular honor and privilege to invite the Annie Executive, ably led by its President, His Excellency Ambassador Obi Okafo, MNI, for the induction of our graduates into the Alumni Association of the National Institute. The Annie President, sir.
May I invite
the ESCO that are members that are present here to please join me on the podium. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by our special guest of honor, the CDS, our amiable DG, members of the directing staff, and very, very important special guests that are available here. Today is a very special day. It's like having a woman that gives birth. That means there's an addition to the family. And on behalf of the Alumni Association, before I say anything further, can I have my insignia of office? Yes.
You came to the stage naked.
It's good to be an alumni. But on a very sad note, before we commence, yesterday we lost a distinguished member of the National Institute from Plateau State, Engineer Sonny Hayat, Sec 39. At this point, our former head of service of Plateau State. And earlier in the year, we also lost the first female Major General of the Nigerian Army, who was also an MNI. We also lost Oladipo Dia and so many few eminent persons. I will at this juncture ask us to observe 1 minute of silence. May the Almighty God accept the spirits and soul of our departed colleague. Amen. Please have your seat. No. I will advise, it was quite a pleasure seeing all of you. I described your group as very robust because as at this morning you left Abuja to Kuru. And as at yesterday, you presented your Pali report to the president. And the president adjudged it as one of the best reports. Industrialization, energy security, and climate change are very topical issues. And we are aware that since NIPS was created in 1979, we have churned out several policies and strategies for government. We are very proud that the team led by the DG has kept this flag flying very high. Please, a round of applause to the management team. I also want to thank the government for the support of this institute. And we will not fail the government in providing invaluable research materials for national development. This group, as you were walking up, I noticed, it's like a family. You have nicknames. Even in our own group, we have people we call boom, boom, boom. I will not explain. And that shows that camaraderie that will exist among ourselves. Every member of the National Institute is a family member to every person. After spending 10 months, which other brother do you have or sister? It's among yourself. Therefore, in your various offices, as you walk in, you see somebody adorning this badge, give the person priority. That's why they call us Mafia Nigeria Incorporated. You must be your brother's keeper. And we have tried to go around to some strategic institutions, and we always tell them, members of the National Institute should be your right-hand man and women. And we have been told that they have never been disappointed with the product of this institute. So I want you to go out there and tell the whole Nigeria that what you have spent 10 months here is not a fluke. You have the capability to change this country. So I congratulate those.
the DG had told me that this group, anybody that has not lived up to expectation, will not be admitted into this Mafia Nigeria Incorporated Group Fellowship. And I'm happy today, the DG has confirmed that you have all done very well. Please, a round of applause to yourselves. And at this juncture, I will advise you to check into your various portfolios that we have been given, get out the pin, and please adorn yourself and then keep standing.
Their spouses.
Please, if you are lucky to have your spouse, let her help you with the pin. She can touch it. It's not sacred.
And any other person that...
Any other person that is beside you, let them help you adorn the pin.
Eh? MG. Yeah. MG should come. Call him.
Please, MG.
MG and DMG.
The MG, DMG, and maybe Sergeant.
Do they have? No, 2 is okay. Yeah, the guest of honor.
The MG, please. The guest of honor will have that privilege of putting a pin on the MG's breast.
Yusuf!
Yes.
CBS.
Please, can the DMG come? DMG will be honored by the CDS too.
What's the MG?
MG is here.
What is the MG?
Please, the special guest of honor, can we crave your indulgence?
Where is your spouse? Where's your husband? Let him come. No, they will do it in front of you. But they have given them. Which have it? Hello, Sam. This one. Okay, Sam. Yeah. No, ma'am. This way. Okay, ma'am. This way, ma'am.
The pin should be on the left side of your dress. Let's be quick about it. It's not compulsory that it must be done by your spouse if your spouse is not available. Don't borrow. Are we ready? Okay. No, I was just saying.
We should get a wife for you from Amudi.
MG.
network is very poor.
We can see go like
Yeah, he's the best one.
Can we now be upstanding? Okay, you have 2 minutes more. I don't like the two. It's difficult.
You know, I said they should put two for them. One for magnet, one magnet, one this one. Okay, it's very difficult. Let them get set. Let them set.
Please get set. Let's. You have just 2 more minutes. Please, can you go back to your seat and be upstanding? Like we are saying, you are now we are going to induct you into the Alumni Association. Your first annual due has already been paid, but we will encourage you.
Graduates of Senior Executive Course 45, can you please sit down, please?
No, they should be standing.
All the graduates remain standing. Every other person, kindly sit down. All the graduates, Senior Executive Course 45, please remain standing. Every other person, take your seat. Thank you very much.
Please, can we are going to do our formal induction, but I want to encourage each and every one of you to make sure you are a member of a state chapter where you belong. It's very important. Some of you will think after leaving NIPS, you just disappear. You must be engaged with yourselves and your friends and your colleagues, your local chapters. Those of you in Abuja, you ask and you'll be admitted into the ANI platform for you to know what activities are going on and to contribute to your quota. At this point in time, please, I will ask the legal advisor to administer the oath of membership and allegiance to the Alumni Association of the National Institute. After that, we have a slogan. When we say ANI, you say towards a better society. And when I say towards a better society, you say ANI. ANI is abbreviated AANI. Legal advisor, please.
ANI. ANI. Towards a better society. Towards a better society. Repeat after me. If I say you see your name. Where is your oath? If they are in your bag, everybody should bring it out. Everyone should bring his own out. And then
you sign
after the oath, you sign it. Yeah, I'll do that.
You introduce yourself, then you administer it, and you tell them the implication of the oath.
Tell them it's in that
scroll, what? Okay.
No, tell them.
Check your bags in the scroll.
It's this scroll.
It's this scroll. You see it, please. Hurry up, please. Hurry up, please. You'll see it inside.
It's in this scroll.
All right. Time is of essence. We are keeping His Excellency waiting. Please get ready. My name is Tijani Inwadus MNI, Sec 36 2014. I am the National Legal Advisor of your great association, Alumni Association of National Institute, ANI. Get ready. I do swear that I will faithfully bear true allegiance to the constitutions of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Alumni Association of the National Institute. I will at all times observe, respect, protect, defend, and devote myself to the said constitutions. So help me God. You know the implication of taking oath. If you go against it, you are not going towards a better society. I wish you all well. On the behalf of the President, congratulations. Your badge, anyway, the President will tell you more than that. Thank you.
No, this badge you are wearing, if you see any member without the badge at any place or time, you have a right to collect the sum of how much? 5,000 naira.
It has been reversed upward.
It's been reversed upward because of the economic situation. It used to be 3,000, but now it's 5,000. If you see anybody without that, please make it compulsory. On behalf of the National ESCO, I wish to congratulate each and every one of you. Please give yourself a very resounding applause. Congratulations.
All right, a very big congratulations to the graduates of Senior Executive Course 45. You are requested to fill that oath and submit it immediately after this. May we be seated, please. Let's sit down. Can we all please take our seats? Thank you very much. Let me quickly announce, ladies and gentlemen, that immediately after this ceremony, we will be having the commissioning of some projects, in particular the training center that has been donated to the National Institute by Senior Executive Course 45. And to help us do the commissioning of that project is the special guest of honor at this occasion. And immediately after the commissioning of the project, we will proceed immediately for dinner. The dinner in honor of Sec 45 graduates is strictly by invitation. If you do not have the invitation card, please get in touch with the appropriate persons to get a copy of the invitation card so that you can participate in the dinner ceremony. So immediately after the commissioning, we will proceed straight away. We'll proceed straight away for dinner. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. We are gradually coming to the end of this ceremony. It is my pleasure, my honor, and my privilege to invite the special guest of honor to deliver his closing remarks, his address at this ceremony. Please put your hands together as we invite the special guest of honor to please come forward.
Your Excellency is the Executive Governor of Plateau State, who is heavily represented by the Secretary to the State Government, the Chief of Defense Staff, the representative of the Inspector General of Police, the representative of the Director General State Security Service, the Director General of the Institute and his management staff, our distinguished annual lecturer, the graduates and their spouses, other distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am here at the instance of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is unavoidably absent for a good cause. He has directed me to represent him because of the importance he attached to this grand occasion. He asked me to deliver his speech, and I read thus. It gives me great delight to be here at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies for the first time as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I am honored to be invited to the nation's apex policy think tank, which has over the years played a very critical role in our effort towards the achievement of a better nation. I am specifically fascinated by this occasion of the graduation of the participant of the Senior Executive Course 45 of 2023, as it largely indicates the consistency of NIBS in actualizing the dreams of its founding fathers in developing a crop of top-class technocrats that will support our collective effort for the great Nigeria we desire. I congratulate the Institute for its consistency and acknowledge it strives toward achieving the other aspect of its mandate, which is the generation of ideas, new techniques, skills, policies, and new directions to guide policy making at the highest level, especially in a period of heightened global threats, regional instability, and subsistent national challenges. I use this special moment to urge you to continue in this trend, as our government is ready to give you all the necessary support to achieve on your mandate. Let me seize this opportunity to place on record that this administration, like the ones before, it sees NIBS as a competent and dependable partner in our resolve in implementing the renewed hope agenda. Your submission on course teams every year have evolved a new policy addressing a major national issues, or resulted in a review of existing policies to accommodate current realities. I applaud your effort at engaging the best brains to provide workable solutions to critical national issues, which have been useful in resolving several national issues, even in the face of limited resources. We continually expect your input in determining solutions and recommendations to subsistent and emerging issues. I urge you to come up with more innovation and remain committed and focused on our mission towards a better society. As a responsible and responsive government, it is our burning desire to provide good governance at both national and subnational level, as encapsulated in our renewed hope agenda. Our very strong desire is for all government interventions to work towards improving national security, economy, agriculture, power, oil and gas, transportation, education, health, and digital economy, among others. The choice of this year's course theme, industrialization, energy security, and climate change in Nigeria, issues, challenges, and prospects, is critical to our policy trust. It underscores our trust in you as a strong ally to our effort towards sustainable development as a nation. I must tell you that the government is impressed with the content and quality of the Pali report submitted to me at the FILA earlier. You have indicated, justified the confidence reposed on you. I assure you that your recommendations will be utilized with the urgency it deserves. My government will work with you closely towards improving your condition of service and welfare. We are committed to getting the best hands to work in our think tank. As such, we shall expedite action on the much needed of the art establishing the institute. To the graduates, the activities and experience through the duration of the course must have impacted positively on you. I am sure you are leaving the institute much better than you came. The course must have enriched you both intellectually and professionally, and also equipped you with superior knowledge, skills, strategy, and increased responsibility to perform optimally at your place of work. I believe you will perform better in the interest and good of the nation. Be reminded that so much has gone into your training. This includes confidence, finance, and effort from the faculty and yourselves. Please do not let the nation down. As much is expected from you as you return to serve the nation through your various offices. I congratulate you all on your graduation and wish you the best as you resume your position or assume higher responsibilities in the various fields of endeavor. To whom much is given, much is required. To the management and staff of the National Institute, congratulations for producing excellent and workable recommendations. The government buys into your mission towards a better society, as it's ever willing and ready to support you in achieving it for our nation and people. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We appreciate your remarks very much. At this point, we will be inviting the Director General of the National Institute, Professor Ayo Omotayo, to make a presentation on behalf of the National Institute to the special guest of honor. Immediately after that, we will take the national anthem. After we take the national anthem, there will be a group photograph right in front of this podium, and then we can then proceed for the commissioning of the new project. The Director General, sir. All right, thank you very much. Before we proceed to take the national anthem, permit me to introduce myself, Your Excellencies. My name is Osime Samuel. I am the Institute Editor here at the National Institute. My co-anchor is Mrs. Olubumi Okonoda. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate you immensely. Shall we rise up as we take the national anthem together? Group photograph, please now. Group photograph. All graduates of Senior Executive Course 45. Right in front of the podium. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Right in front of the podium here, please. Thank you.
Please, participants, can we please come together for the group photograph? Please, let's be fast about it. Please, let's cover the aisle, cover the circle. Okay, are we ready? Please come in, please. Can we hurry up? Join in the photograph, please. Those of you behind, can you please cover the space in front of you? Thank you very much. We're taking now. All right, cameraman, let's take. Okay, are we done? No. Please hurry. We're taking, please.